bad news, right? Because I'm back on stage. And you can tell there was massive budget cuts at HEDNA, so they couldn't afford a proper moderator. But that deficiency is going to be more than compensated by the excellence of the panel. Namely Jessica from Derbysoft, Steffan from IBS, and of course Natalie from Shiji. So we've heard Act 1, we've heard Act 2, and we're not going to pick winners because we're going to shift the conversation entirely. See? That's the trick. You'll have to decide who the winners are between Act 1 and Act 2. Act 3 is really about saying, well, have we been having the right conversation all along? For example, I've been asked to sit down.
Can you start the timer? I'm given a task, I'm going to stick to it.
Yes,
Thank you.
I've been told to sit down because otherwise I'm overbearing with the panel.
No, it's because then we can see your incredibly handsome face.
Are you busy tonight? No, sorry.
That's the other code of conduct.
How do you recover from that? It's really hard. So, what I was trying to say...
What is happening?
What I was trying to say, ladies and gentlemen, was, in the previous panels, we've talked PMS, we've talked CRS, but even though there were a few brief mentions of ancillary products, we haven't really talked about products in the control of the hotels that could be inventoried and distributed, or also products outside of the control of the hotel, such as golf tee times or spa, right? So what do you think are going to represent opportunities in that field in the future when it comes to distribution? Jessica?
Well, we definitely, we're always looking at ways to diversify. And one of our recent partnerships with Disney helps us get into the ticket space. So now that allows us to be in the ticket and the attraction space, so that's good. But, and also attribute-based selling, is quite the hot topic and things like that. And I think that we're definitely set up already to help tackle this for the hotels when they want to take this on. And so we're already doing content today and distributing the content, so we can definitely do the attributes. But I know that looks different, for each different chain or supplier, and what is an attribute, and do we get down to the really, really nitty gritty of it's a big towel, it's a small towel. It could be 1,000 things just in one hotel room. So, but a good technology partner will adapt and work quickly to make it happen for the hoteliers. So.
Thank you, Steffan. What's your view?
So, I think my view is now informed by some news that we shared on Tuesday. The timing of which was really interesting as it relates to the panel's conversation today, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, in many respects because it was a complete change to our go-to-market with a significant expansion. So we announced the acquisition of APS on Tuesday. And with that acquisition, we've hooked up with Aaron Shepard and his founding team and a remarkable organization. And as a result, we are now very much part of this dialogue, which is the diversification of an offering into a unified platform, one that offers solutions across PMS, CRS, RMS functionalities, combining with our distribution and booking engine platform. And I mentioned that as a background because it sort of informs, well, we're here as Act 3, and we bring a distribution perspective, but we now have the good fortune to be working with APS that we acquired and now play in Act 1 and Act 2 and have some things to say. I think with that, just on the topic of answering your question related to sort of diversification on the distribution side, we are doing two things that I think are interesting and relevant to the industry. The first is with a major theme park provider, decoupling all of the ancillaries and everything that you can do within that theme park and then rebuilding it through distribution to make them available to travel sellers and distributors. But we're also through APS doing it on a market-wide level. So combining 350,000 hotels that are available on a platform with an ecosystem of activities and experiences that include concert tickets and, moving well beyond, transfers and insurance and things like that to amazing, incredible, exciting things that people who want to dream and aspire to travel can do. And so it's really a game-changing platform for travel sellers to engage with us. And I think it's at the heart of what's happening in the most exciting sort of inflection in distribution, which is transition from selling rooms to selling experiences.
So in other words, you're thinking of offering customers what they want, not necessarily what hotels want to sell.
What they're dreaming about.
That's revolutionary. Natalie, what do you have in store?
On the diversification side, not outside of, I know we'll go into like other channels and things. I worked on property in San Diego at a 5-diamond resort, and we had a spa and we had a golf, and we had to work at the time with third-party vendors to sell that inventory, which always felt so strange because it was our inventory. They were our times that we had spas and facials and all the things available and tea times and do you want a caddy? And the thing that was always so odd was that we didn't have the ability to sell outside of brand.com. So is that a unique piece of inventory? I don't know. It's kind of like I was having a conversation last night with someone about, we talk about how a hotel should be as simple as booking an airline ticket. But let's really think about that, because all you're really saying is I want a preferred seat. I can't choose if there's going to be a child behind me who's going to be banging my seat, or someone who's going to be pounding on a computer, or someone who's going to be playing on a game. Those are components that I can't choose. So even though I may want to sit closer in the plane, what if I want to sit in the back of the plane and want a first-class meal? Those options actually don't exist on a hotel plane today. So is it as simple as we should be able to attribute base and offer products as simply as we do on an airline? I don't think so. Nothing about our industry is easy, as has been discussed.
Very true. So as a moderator, I'm not allowed to share any opinion, of course, right? So I would never do that. So what I'm going to do is ask a question.
And give you the answer that you want to hear?
No. So I'll put a question mark in the end, but I'll start by saying, when I hear you talking about ancillary products and new types of products, I'm thinking, don't underestimate the complexity of implementation at hotel and the training that was mentioned before. And also there's something I was joking about earlier, which is it's always good to have a read of the management contract of the hotel with a brand to understand how the dynamics of who pays what on what. Because that's going to inform the urgency with which a given hotel is going to be interested in selling additional products. In other words, if the hotel can distribute spa times, but they're not incentivized in the contract to do so, they might, it's never going to go top of the list, right? And the right had the question mark, so it's as if I had asked the question. Because I'm a stickler with the rules, It's very important to stick with the rules. So we might come back to that, but why don't laugh? This is supposed to be a serious. I'm never going to be invited again. For years, everybody's been talking about Google, Amazon, and others dipping a toe into the ocean of distribution. It really seemed that they've dipped a toe and they felt the water was too cold and they retreated very fast. I'm sure you have all your crystal balls with you.
Sure about that?
Well, so that's a question. Are they going to come back? And if not, who do you see as potential new entrants into the hotel distribution or the travel distribution sphere? Jessica.
Going with me again.
You're going to start with her.
Right,
She's
yeah,
like,
it's fine.
come on, mix it up.
I do personally. I do think that they will come back. I mean, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they try again? Why wouldn't they try? I mean, it's something else for them to sell. So it'll be interesting if they do, and what new opportunities it could bring to our industry if they do. But yeah, personally, I do see them coming back and trying again.
So both Google and Amazon?
I would definitely, in my personal opinion, I definitely see Amazon. But yeah, I would think that they both would.
Even though they've tried and they've retreated.
Yeah. Try and try again until you get it right.
Fair enough.
Third time's a charm.
So, I would say that there are two interesting lenses to answer this question. The first is sort of the behemoths, right? So the network effect of these giants. And I think we can speculate about how serious they are about entering and also what challenges they might encounter. But I think what's more interesting is perhaps a trend that I think we're all seeing in distribution, which is that so many more providers are actually entering into selling hotel rooms right now. And we're seeing that with, for example, let's say a major ticket seller that wants to add hotel rooms instead of just selling tickets, right? So through distribution, through the successful work of this industry, the industry we're in, we're seeing that as a clear trend, right? So anyone can sell hotel rooms now, and we're seeing a lot more entrance into that. And so that seems to be a clear trend.
So more non-travel specialists selling travel.
Yeah, as part of experiences, right? So in this changing world of travel, in the rise of the Gen Z travel, in the rise of pleasure, right? Where does the aspiration start? Where does that dreaming and aspiration then translate into a booking? And we're seeing a clear trend in that diversification.
I think I have, my view is based on history. I started, unlike Elise, I'm going to go ahead and date myself. I started at Travelscape about 25 years ago. And at the time, we were loading FIT rates into Space A calendars, faxing over a credit card of the owner of the company, because when that one failed, we'd fax over another one. I mean, it was so incredibly archaic in the way that we were doing it. We were calling hotels and saying, hey, can you give us rooms? And manually entering rates. For anybody who doesn't know, Travelscape is the model that Expedia built their entire program on. So when I look at that, and then I think, look at where we are today with Expedia. It is a beast of a company, and it has so many different avenues that are selling different types of travel components. Then I would say, look at Hotel Tonight. A friend of mine who started there at the beginning called me and he's like, hey, I'm going to sell hotels same day. I'm like, you're insane. That's never going to work. That's why I'm not at a startup. But I mean, and so look at how that is adopted. Like we look at WeChat, we look at TikTok and Douyin and all these other channels that continue. And I don't have the crystal ball that says this is going to be the way people travel, but people are booking on TikTok from second videos. And that is the way that travelers are being inspired. So is it through seeing someone experience a yurt in Palm Springs, or I stayed at Coachella and this was my I don't know, I've never been to those, so I can't really relate. But that's the way that people are traveling now. And I think that if you would have said that even 5 years ago, we all would have said you're nuts. But part of what distribution should be doing for hotels is allowing you to get into that space and control your inventory and control your rates. And that's what I see the role of kind of where we sort of sit, is to allow the hotel to decide what rate, where, and how do they want it to look.
Which is a tall order, as we know, and I know the rate parity discussion was mentioned before. It's tough if you're a hotelier, right? Let me just bounce on something you said, Natalie, around WeChat. If we think of the traditional landscape in the Western world, we think of PMS and CRS and OTAs and so on, but how about super apps like WeChat that do everything from payment to chat to hotel reservation?
Yeah, WeChat has 1.5 billion eyeballs on Glass every day. And that's, Philippe is being very kind in saying it's a super app. I mean, this thing literally could probably drive a car. Like, it is so incredibly intense. You can text a hotel through the application and say, hey, I want to be able to have A, B, C, Y, X, and they will take care of it. I mean, the level at which customers interact with this one app is like nothing we've seen here in the U.S.
It does Uber Eats, it does
Expedia, it does shopping. It does, if you said, I want to arrive at the Hotel Montreal and I want to have a hurricane and a Caesar salad delivered to my room, it's going to be here. And you're like, I want a t-shirt that says, oh, I almost went bad.
So why don't we have it here? Why don't we have WeChat?
That I can't answer, maybe my panelists can, but I will tell you, apps like WhatsApp, they want to get into that space. So I wouldn't, to Jessica's answer, I completely agree. And I think that we don't even know what's next. So that's where I think it's like, will Google? Absolutely. This is $1 trillion industry.
Why wouldn't they?
I don't think I agree, but I'll come back to that. Steffan.
Yeah, so I think it's a fascinating question. I think, it reminds me of many years ago with the rise of Google. There was a time, and some people in the room may remember Alta Vista was kind of the definitive search engine, right? It was the first search engine that kind of had the magic of a simple UI and this brilliant ability to catalog the entire internet. And so it was so memorable and so exciting and so different. If someone had said to us, and those of us in the room who knew it, right, that a new player would come in and disrupt them, you would have been laughed out of the room. It was inconceivable. And yet, what did Google do? They came up with a better search, and they disrupted it. And it was incredibly surprising. And so we look at the major super apps that exist today. I don't think you can discount any one of them, nor a new entrant, right? Especially with the advent of AI. Right? AI represents a fundamental change to Google. It's a threat to their core business. And I think it's going to be a catalyst of innovation.
Okay, so pardon me, maybe a super app is in the making, and it may not be coming from a familiar name.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be X, though.
Uber? Uber would like to be a super app.
Well, yeah, but the app formerly known as Twitter may not be the super app that the founder thinks it may be.
Jessica, what's your view?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see how WeChat works and works with China, and we work with WeChat. We, supply our hotel partners on WeChat, but I personally don't see it working outside of China. I just don't, and I don't know that I want that. I don't want a super app. I don't want to be stuck using one thing and forced. I mean, nobody's going to technically force me, but I like having choices and options, and if that one I didn't like it, or if I've got to go somewhere, I can look at Lyft versus Uber and who has the better rate right now as I'm leaving. Okay, great, that's who I'm going to go with if that's what I need, or something. Or if I had a bad experience with one of them, I'm going to try something else. But I don't like the whole super app concept, and also with governmental regulations and all of that stuff and everything. That would be so many hoops that, to jump through and whatnot. And having the government have eyes on that data with a super app and everything. I personally don't see it happening outside of China.
Well, and not to promote our individual companies too much, code of conduct. But again, I think that's why it's important to work with partners, PMS, CRS, Switch, Channel Manager, who can fill the gap of whatever it is that you're trying to fill. Right? So no PMS is going to do it all. No CRS is going to do it all. Would that be a great vision if we had one system with all? Yeah, sure. It'd be great. But we don't all have economy mid-scales. We don't all have, limited service. There's so many different. The reason there are so many players in the tent is because there's so many options in the tent. Yeah. So I think that it's naive of any of us to say that there's one solution that's ever going to do. I'm the same way with Lyft and Uber. Like, I want the choice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, just to weigh in, I think, first of all, I have to say, I absolutely 100% agree from a consumer choice perspective. The world is better with choice, right?
Absolutely.
And that,
competition.
I very much hope that we won't see a diversification and expansion of the number of super apps and a consolidation.
Yeah.
That being said, though, I think getting back to the core topic of Act 1, 2, and 3, I am of the belief, however, that when you look at the hospitality tech structure and how many vendors and how many partners, software providers are required to run a hotel organization, I think there is a great deal of value in consolidating, in simplifying the work that's required for hospitality leaders to run their businesses. And so, following the code of conduct, I will say it's a trend, right? We're in it. There are other providers in Act 1 and 2 and 3 that are there. I think that is a valuable consolidation.
So as we get all our crystal balls here, right, there's an interesting tension because on the one hand we're hearing, well, there's what Act 1, 2, 3, there's legacy players, but on the other hand, it doesn't mean necessarily that everything has to merge into some sort of a super omnipotent type of distribution application, right? Which makes me think of something you alluded to earlier, which never happens at hotel chains, but sometimes we kind of forget about, and that's the final customer. And also, it's a bit of a shock, but not all customers are middle-aged white men. It's scary. And
Says who?
Some even use their mobile phones to book. Can you?
What?
Yes. So when we say TikTok, so can my 23-year-old daughter actually book a hotel on TikTok? And if so, how does it actually work?
Yes.
Why not?
Absolutely. There's two different functions. It's launched in other countries, but there's a calendar function and there's a voucher. So you can purchase a voucher, then you go to brand.com to redeem it, and guess what? You end up spending more money. So it's great for the hotels. There's also a calendar feature that they have rolled out where you can actually select by date. So yes.
And from the brand's perspective, it's a brand.com booking, so it's all great.
100%. And I can just say that that's something at our organization we've called Mobile Marketplace Direct, because that is going direct to it's Alipay. What about if you could say, hey, I'm a Ritz and I want to know how many people have rented a Ferrari on their last vacation and spent, that's way outside of my echelon of the way I travel, so I can't really, I should use better examples. My analogies are terrible. But think about the simplicity of that. If you could go to Alipay and say, hey, I have a new hotel, I'm in Dubai, and I want to know who rented camels to go and do an adventure, and I want to market to them to stay at my hotel and give them immediate access to my membership program. And all of that is that data component, and it's all happening. It's just, it's not as adopted here.
Steffan.
I think I would sort of point out two things related to mobile in general and sort of and Gen Z. On the consumer side, I still find it strange why the hotel industry has lagged almost every other e-commerce segment in the adoption of mobile pay. I don't know whether everyone likes filling in, 15 fields instead of just, clicking a button using Face ID or fingerprint to buy, but there's a big opportunity to fully adapt that. And of course, the exception is the OTA app ecosystem, of course, which is working beautifully. But for hotels that want to sell direct, mobile is so important, and we're still not there. I don't understand why. The one thing I would add too, though, is mobile isn't just about the consumer, it's about the operator, it's about the leaders. And here I think some of the most innovative work that's being done in hotel software is enabling you to manage your revenue, your distribution on any device at any time on mobile as well. And I think some of the leading platforms do that brilliantly.
I'll tell you at the bar later why the hotels don't support it. Is because you can't think of one chain is one hotel. It's back to the relationship between franchisees and the financing flows. It's fascinating, but it's for later. Jessica.
No, yeah, I completely agree. I think mobile is very important, and as we also see with, AI and being able to text, and now you can just text, I want to go to Canada in November, and you're going to get back, information, and you might even get a response of, why would you go to Canada in November? Wouldn't you rather go to Miami, or something? But I definitely, the more that we're all using mobile phones and making that available and the ability for ease of use to do that, absolutely, why not?
Well, thank you, panel. I think Act 3 was definitely the accomplishment of today. We had Act 1 that said one thing, we had Act 2 that said the opposite, and Act 3 that said, but it's not the right question anyway. So good job. All right.